Good morning. We are clicking all the buttons and getting everything ready to go live on Facebook because it is a Hump Day Happy Chat and we do those live on Facebook. So here we are. Good morning. It is another Wednesday, and this is a good one, like they all are. It is a Hump Day Happy Chat coming at you live on Facebook. Good morning. Good morning. Just waiting for all the cool stuff to open up and give us what we need. Yay. This is a Hump Day Happy Chat coming to you live from the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self Mastery. And I'm Valerie Shepard, and I welcome you to this Wednesday Hump Day Happy Chat. Actually, I don't have tea this morning. It would be my hot lemon water, which is actually supposedly really good for your gut health to start with some hot lemon water in the morning. So, hey, yay, that's what I'm doing. So, good morning and happy hump day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Valerie Shepard again from the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self Mastery, where we are fully committed to helping you master yourself in your life so that you can manage whatever your life sends your way. Now, the most important thing about that is your life is going to bring your way all kinds of things. And actually, it's you doing it, but that's a different hump day habitat. And the whole idea is, how do you do it exquisitely? How do you welcome what your life brings you instead of fight against it? Boy, do I have some stories about fighting against it. But how can we do us differently, better in our lives? How can we have the life that we really, I think it's our entitled to? We are endowed with the ability to have magnificent lives. And so that's what we're committed to at the Hartley Center, is doing that in our own instrument and then ganging up on you to make it possible for you too. The whole idea underneath this idea of self mastery, there are three things: self awareness, self acceptance, and self love. And so, thank you very much for joining me this morning. And today is a really cool day because it's the Wednesday before the 2020 start of the Festival of Lights, otherwise known as Hanukkah. And this is a very auspicious occasion in the Judaic calendar, the Judaism. And it's really important. And the reason I thought I would look at it a little bit is because we can get lessons for our everyday lives from lots of sources, And uh, Hanukkah gives us some really pretty ones to look at and incorporate into our lives every day, not just uh, in the season of the Festival of Lights or at the end of the year in the Judeo-Christian calendar, the um, the Christian calendar or the Christian faith celebration of Christmas or um, any other celebration. We can learn things that can be applied to our entire lives. And truthfully, I think that's why they become so auspicious and why they become so important. So the story of Hanukkah has to do with overcoming in the biggest sense in my interpretation. Okay, so let me just first lay down some rules here or some truths here. I am neither Jewish nor am I a scholar on Jewish religion, Jewish law, Jewish practices. This is my understanding from the little bit of study that I've done. And I would say it's a thimble full. in the sea of what's out there to know. So I'm going on record saying I'm sharing my perspective, not historically accurate necessarily or historically true to the letter necessarily. But from what I understand, um, Hanukkah, the story of Hanukkah chronicles this war that happened in like between 167 to 163 BC. Yes, we count backwards because we're going from many years to zero before we start counting back up again. That I do know. And it had to do with dynamics between cultures and even dynamics within a culture. And part of it was one culture rising up and reclaiming its independence from another culture. But even within the culture, different factions going against each other about what should be and what isn't. Sound familiar? Very, very aligned with what is going on now from almost 200 BC. Dynamics are showing up again. So the Hanukkah Miracle is what the Festival of Lights is about. That after um, fighting this war, this is according to the Talmud, after fighting this war, Judah Maccabee and other Jews who were returning from this battle that they had won, they returned to their sacred temple, and um, the eternal flame had been snuffed out. And so, wanting to get the eternal flame going, they got ready to do that and realized they didn't really have enough oil for lighting it eternally. Um, but they lit it anyway and started that. And then, even though there was only supposedly to their eyes enough oil for one night, the oil lasted for 8 days until more oil could show up. And that's the Hanukkah miracle. And that's the 8 candles in the menorah. There are other versions of this story, and they don't all have all these elements to them, but that's the one that I'm using for today. So, the whole idea, like when I look at this story, and I love this story, and I shout out to um, my many friends who I know are preparing for the celebration to begin tomorrow, December 10th, 2020, and continuing through December 18th, 2020. It's interesting in the calendar. Sometimes Hanukkah and Christmas are closer, and this time they're much further apart. And I have friends who celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas and Kwanzaa, and I think it's beautiful. I love the fact that we can honor these auspicious occasions and bring them into our lives in as many ways as possible through as many times with important people as possible. So, this story of Hanukkah from way back when provides such beautiful opportunities when we think about where is my happiness today? Like, with everything that is going on in the world today, can I really claim the kind of happiness that I want? And here are some of the things, here are some of the main takeaways. So, one of the main takeaways in the story of Hanukkah and the Festival of Lights is the movement from darkness to light, the movement from darkness to light. And right in the middle of, right just past Hanukkah this year is the winter solstice, which starts the beginning of dark turning to light. It's the darkest day of the year. And we go into this like long darkness. And then from that day forward, days start getting longer and night starts getting shorter. And so this movement from darkness to light is profound in the natural world, in this religious world, and in the spiritual world, and in the world in general, the mundane world, as I say. in the world in general. I think Martin Luther King is quoted as saying, "Darkness cannot defeat darkness. Only light can do that." In other words, when there are things out in the world that you see that aren't working, when there are things in your world, your own world, that aren't working, you can't really go about getting rid of them by using the darker elements of you, by using your lowest consciousness vibration. That really isn't what moves from darkness to light. The light of you is what's needed to move from darkness to light. That in life, in the world, in your experience, the most important thing you can do in a dark situation is bring the light. And in a conscious way, that's light a candle, like turn on a light. And so what is that for you? Like, what is that metaphor for you? In my book, Living Happy to Be Me, um, multi award winning international bestseller, yay, um, I talk about the darkness that was in me and how I got clear on, like, wow, what is that? And how I actually thought it was out there, darkness coming to take me over, or darkness coming to hold me back, or keep me down. And in fact, when I went on the journey of self-discovery, self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-love, that's how those things ended up in the book, was me going through them on my own journey. As I went through that journey for myself, what I discovered was, wow, the darkness is being projected into my world. So all I could see was the reflection of myself. Universal law of reflection. Darkness cannot defeat darkness. Only light can do that. So we have to, well, we don't have to. Our lives are constantly inviting us to, encouraging us to, giving us opportunities to go into our light, to notice that light exists inside, and to discover and uphold that flicker into a flame, into a beacon that illuminates all from within to without. Hermetic principles: as above, so below, as within, so without. So, lesson number one: move from the darkness into the light. And then there's in the battles that were fought, and the, you know, good winning over evil, or oppression, I'll call it oppression, good winning over attempts at oppression in the Hanukkah story. There's this idea of standing up to that in today's world, standing up to it in ourselves. How are we oppressing ourselves? How are we beating ourselves up for the slightest little things? I had some incidences last week where some old energy came up, and I felt really bad about myself for making a decision that I thought was totally right in the moment. And 24 hours later, I was questioning. And I could feel this negative energy bubbling up around me, oppressing myself, and feeling like somehow if I didn't make every decision right, there was something wrong with me and bad things were going to happen. And at the highest level, that I was unlovable. That's a yucky feeling, being unlovable, especially if you are like I am and believe in a divine principle. I call that divine principle love, and I call that divine principle of love God. When I think about being unlovable to a divine principle that is all about love, that's hurtful inside. That brings up sadness and shame. We don't want that. So, standing up against oppressors and oppression, it has to start within. How are we oppressing ourselves? And then as we look outside and we look around, and whether it's inside or outside, standing up to oppression is about compassionate activism. It requires ordinary people to do extraordinary things, meaning they stand up in extraordinary courage. They have extraordinary stamina. Some of the things going on in the world today are not going to be solved on January 20th. They're not going to be solved. by a few people passing a few laws or a few people screaming and shouting and posting a bunch of memes. It's not going to happen that way. So, stamina, courage, extraordinary people having extraordinary faith, believing that even when they can't see signs that things are changing, they still keep putting out the light and the darkness and trusting that the darkness will shrink. And then also having extraordinary hearts, hearts that are magnificent vessels of love and light and faith and trust and truth. There is a thing called truth, the truth. There is a thing. And to be able to stand up to developments of alternative reality takes real heart and trust and belief and truth, hearts of compassion, hearts of love. So that's number two. Number one, moving from darkness to light. Number two, standing up against depression. Number three, where is your center? Like finding your center and holding it no matter what is going on. It's an opportunity to figure out kind of where am I in all of this? Where am I? Am I just stuck being a part of a group, or have I chosen for me what is going to be my path forward? What is going to be my truth and belief system? What is going to be the way I engage on this issue? Good morning. As always, thank you for joining me. So, this center in the Hanukkah story, we talk about different factions, different cultures coming together in battle, different factions within the culture, carving out, battling for the righteous ruling of everyone. This is the way we should do it. If you believe like us, you have to be like us. And so, where's the center? How do you find balance in your life where you are able to be true to you and also be open to see what the other is saying, see what gift the other is bringing, hear what other has to say that might support you being where you are and might also give you an opportunity to claim new ground, to shift the self into a new experience of the self, which then unfolds into a new experience in the world. And every new experience unfolding into the world creates a new world. And how can we do that? Keeping in mind the first two lessons: move from darkness to light, move from darkness to light, and liberate from oppression, oppressive ideas. Stand in compassionate activism with your light shining brightly. Number four, take one step, just one. In the story that I told a little bit ago, when Judah Maccabee and the other Jews that had been in battle returned to their sacred temple, the eternal flame had gone out. And they took the oil, they looked at the eternal flame and they wanted to light it, but there wasn't enough oil to light it for a long period of time. Nonetheless, they lit it anyway. And that was the source of the miracle in lighting the eternal flame with what looked to the mundane eyes, to the human eyes, as only enough oil for one night. They lit the flame anyway, figuring they would get the extra oil they needed to keep the light going somehow, some way, at some point. And the miracle that happened was that one night's oil supply lasted for 8 nights of flame. And then additional oil arrived. I often quote Arthur Ashe, who talks about this particular instance. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And that I see in the Hanukkah story. Just take what we have and get on with it. Let's do something with what we have. And I've noticed about myself that I tend to want to wait until I have all my ducks in order. I'm noticing that about one of my pet projects. I'm even not moving forward with it because I want to have all the pieces and parts in place. I want to know how it's all going to play out. I want to get the answer. I want to get it right. Can you hear the confluence of all these different pieces of darkness that are still trying to, edge the light out of me? Self-awareness, I know they're there. Self-acceptance, I accept that these are things that are a part of an aspect of me. And then self-love, I'm going to love myself anyway. And when they show up, I kind of go, oh yeah, that's just a part of me that doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel whole, doesn't feel lovable. And I just remind her that she is, and move forward. So, what's your start where you are? Use what you have, do what you can. So, whether we're talking about like the daunting tasks that face us today for creating happiness, how do I create happiness in a world that is overflowing, it feels like, with anti Black racism? And I use anti Black to mean anti person of color. And the darker your skin on the color ladder, the harder life tends to be in countries all over the world. There was a recent story in France about a policeman on Black person violence that erupted in France. Uh, and so erupted into violence or the violence erupted into um, demonstration in France. So whether it is dealing with the oppression of maybe financial havoc, um, medical pandemic, mental health, mental illness, discrimination, war, uh, violence, people who don't like each other and don't make all the claims they can about that. You get what I'm saying. What can we do in a first step? Like, what one step would be to understand where I am, and then figure out, well, what's mine to do next? What is mine to do? What is uniquely going to benefit the situation coming directly from me? Yay. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And then last and most important for our everyday lives, every day, is see the miracles. Why has the Hanukkah story been told since 167 BC? It's a passing down of the legacy of magnificence and a moment of miraculous power and beauty and love overcoming the darkness. The miracle in the Hanukkah story is what is the juju, so to speak. Look what happens when there is commitment to upholding this beautiful belief and story. Look what happens when we dig deep into ourselves, those ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Look what can happen. And the biggest miracle goes back to number one, the light shattering the darkness. And darkness cannot do that. Only light can. And when we see the miracle in light shattering darkness, we allow ourselves to open, like open to the light, open to let our light shine, open to possibility. That's what light represents to me, possibility. And so when we think of like hump day happy chat, how do I get more happiness when around me that feels like a lot of darkness? Sometimes it feels like the darkness is swallowing me whole. That's not really what's going on. but it can feel that way. Seeing the miracles. And when you think about this time of year in whatever calendar you're looking at, the December calendar, the Judeo Christian calendar, whatever calendar, this time of year has lots of symbolism, metaphor, and truth, true experiences of light interacting with darkness. So we can move from darkness to light within and see miracles when that happens. We can bring that light to the external world in our little microcosm of a world with just ourselves and see the miracles that happen when we do that. In our families, our communities, and in the larger world, we can do that. So how do we leverage our faith? Creating space for others to do the same in their own time, in their own way. So, to all of those who are celebrating Hanukkah as their special religious, spiritual celebration of the Festival of Light, happy Hanukkah to you. I think in Hebrew, so I'm going to try this. Bear with me because I'm not a Hebrew scholar either. I believe I've heard it as Chag Hanukkah Sameach. Happy Hanukkah. Thank you for joining me for today's Hump Day Happy Chat. I'm wishing you a beautiful uh, Festival of Lights, and I encourage and invite you to take these 5 lessons, these aspects of Hanukkah, and bring them into your space, bring them into your world, and see how they um, bring a little bit of the miracle of this celebration into your everyday world. And I also want to encourage and invite you, if you want more of this kind of happiness, this kind of happy instruction, this kind of happy guidance um, on a more frequent basis than just Wednesdays, you can join my online community at Patreon, patreon.com/Valerie Shepherd. And that's my Heaping Helpings of Happiness community. There are probably some members of our community on the Happy Chat today live. I shout out to all of them and I invite you to come over and play with us. We have guided meditations. We have a laughter party once a month. We're doing a gathering on Friday for the holiday season on Zoom, and lots of fun that is all designed, and some teachings too, because that's what I'm about. That's all designed to grow in you the ability to um, take self mastery to a deeper level and have it root and grow a beautiful tree of happiness within your heart that you can spread all over the world. Many blessings. Thank you for joining us. I'll close with the metta prayer, the prayer of loving kindness from the Buddha, the Karanaya Metta Sutra. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. And may all beings awaken to the light of their true nature. True nature is light, peace, love, joy, freedom, tolerance, harmony. And may all beings be free. Yay! All beings includes you and me. Many blessings. Thank you for joining. See you next time. Valerie Shepherd signing off on the Hump Day Happy Chat. Bye now.